webcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar. I am Aarti Bhavlekar from YASH Technologies and I'll be the host for today's event. COVID has brought many changes in the way companies in all sectors do business. It has highlighted the need to reduce dependence on humans and other resources that are susceptible to unavailability or disruption during pandemics. Migration of existing ECC instances to S4HANA on cloud will reduce the level of complexity in managing the application on-premise, simplifies the complex business process, enable better performance, and provide higher level of resiliency during crisis without interrupting the current operations. Having said, in today's session, SAP and Azure experts from YASH Technologies and Microsoft will discuss why migrating to SAP S4HANA on Azure is the right time to consider, how to do an initial system assessment, tools and accelerators available for SAP S4HANA transition, why Azure is the right cloud platform of choice to host SAP application, benefits, and some success stories. Now, before we move on further, let me take a minute to introduce YASH Technologies. We are a leading technology integrator and outsourcing partner for large and fast-growing clients worldwide. With 6,000 plus workforce, multiple delivery and sales centers globally, we serve our customers across 6 continents. YASH customer-centric engagement framework integrates strong domain expertise and consulting capabilities to provide digital application and infrastructure services. Over the years, we have built a strong partnership with leading technology solution providers like Microsoft, SAP, AWS, and Oracle. Let's take a quick look at the profile speakers for today. We have Mr. Nagesh Pesawada, who is the AVP SAP Practice Head at YASH Technologies. And with him, we have Mr. Timothy Tan, who is an Azure specialist at Microsoft. Before we begin this session, let me quickly take you through the functionality of the webinar platform. The session will be recorded and the link will be shared to all the attendees later this week. You will see a control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. The orange button on the top right side of your screen can be used to collapse and expand the control panel. Through the presentation, the staff will manage the Q&A functionality. If you have any questions for our speakers, please enter the same in the questions window on your control panel. Your questions will be answered at the end of the session. All attendee microphone will be muted to prevent any distractions. As we all are working from our homes, I request the attendees to kindly excuse for any sort of background disturbances from our side. And now, without any further delay, I now request Mr. Nagesh Pesawada to kindly take over. Over to you, Nagesh.
Thank you, Aarti, and hello, everyone. It's an immense pleasure for me, to be reaching out to all of you and share some insights about our services that we have on Azure and SAP S4HANA, and how you could actually also leave some message for you on what all you could do, while you're preparing your road for S4HANA, SAP S4HANA, and our YASH for HANA packages that we have. So let me keep moving. Yeah. So first of all, yes, SAP. A lot of you might be already using SAP, in the old flavor of ECC, or you might also be using other ERP softwares, and you're scouting for an ERP. Maybe you're looking for a new ERP, to help you in these times, like Aarti mentioned. Have a wonderful intelligent ERP. So S4HANA, why you should move, from your existing ERP to S4 or from your ECC systems. If you're an install-based customer and using SAP, why you should move to S4HANA? What's that compelling reason? Yeah. So first of all, yes, these days we all talk about having our digital journey, embarking on the digital journey. Definitely S4 would be the first step. If your ERP goes digital, everything else, it becomes so easier to add most of the other digital aspects to your entire IT and system application landscape. So SAP S4 HANA would be your digital core or the foundation for your intelligent enterprise. How so? Firstly, if business processes are the key, but now having the ability to do the processes simpler, with much more help and insight driven. There are a lot of apps and, basically doing it, working every day on apps rather than remembering a lot of T codes or, going through a lot of lengthy tables and rows and records. It becomes so much simpler and easier for you if you do your business process in much lesser steps and simpler steps. And also, imagine having a lot of cockpits and insights for you to help in your decision making. And also, of course, it's a platform for innovation, like I was mentioning earlier. You start your first step, have your ERP going to S4, but then the S4 HANA also lays a foundation. It also has some inbuilt predictive analytics and machine learning apps and RPA and conversational UI. But you can also add more to it or connect to your other SAP systems or even non-SAP systems on a platform like Azure, where it works on a hybrid model as well. So now, more importantly, also you have the ease of implementation with the methodologies and a partner like YASH, where we have done a lot of conversions and implementation. We get you there, faster, a faster time to value, because without taking much long time for implementations, we have accelerators and proven methodologies which we have used with our customers. Yeah. So now these are some of the benefits, the customers are actually have realized. Some of the customers with whom we have worked, typically finance month-end closing is one of the key area. So where people have seen a direct, benefit, that because a lot of things happen through the month automatically, because a lot of reconciliations are eliminated. That's where we call about simplicity in the process, simplifications in the process. So the people could divert the, effort to something else, and, maybe ability to do more analysis and make more decisions and move fast forward. So rather than waiting for the month end to happen and then working on the month end closure, it's a progressive closure that happens through the month. And proper, very good insights around AR outstanding. Typically AR is the key for any organization. So how about being able to reduce the AR outstanding so your cash flow gets improved? So likewise, there are a few other things. I'll not go into detail, but these are just very, very few of the benefits some of our customers have realized, and they're constantly measuring also. So now, when you talk about simplification, imagine rather than suppose you're in any department, you see a transaction, then you actually go ahead and you would have looked at multiple reports. Maybe they are within the system or outside the system. You apply your experience to it. Then you come back again and do a transaction. But imagine having a whole lot of insights on one screen, which would help you. Imagine you're a procurement and you have some requisitions of materials or services with you, and right there, if you have insights on who are all the possible sources on the same screen and what has been their performance in terms of quality or pricing or and other factors. So if everything is provided to you in one screen, your decision making will be much more quicker and a right decision making as well, because all the insights are at the same place. So now let's move on. That's where one example of simplification. There are numerous. Then what about the smart UI? The smart UI and intuitive kind of things, red, green, yellow kind of annotation. So you know where the fire is or where to douse it. So you quickly can go if you're either a CFO or a CXO, any CXO or a departmental head. So you have the right kind of smart business cockpits, both which drive you strategically and also at an operational layer. Maybe a sales order fulfillment, because if you're not able to fulfill your sales orders, that means something is wrong in the system. So you can go down right from the top all the way to the detail, which are those top sales orders that are blocking the revenue or the opportunities. So likewise, in every area there are a lot of smart business cockpits. Then KPIs, we talked about 1,000 KPIs, several KPIs and insights, whether you're for procurement or finance or even your day-to-day work, your approval, inbox approval, whether you have to approve your leaves or purchase requisitions or your postings, JVs and all, if you have to approve them, everything comes up in your inbox at one place where you could run your business with. So several KPIs which are accessible anywhere on any device, be it your laptop, desktop, or phone, or tablet, or iPad, whatever could be the Android, iOS. So now another important thing is also, a lot of people say, yes, we already have some systems in ERP, we would like to invest on, OLAP systems, get our reporting right, BW or BI or any other systems, So instead of putting an investment into that, it maybe is worth looking at converting your ERP, SAP ERP, or going into an ERP which has everything inbuilt in it. So you have transactions, analytics all in one. So it gives you live operational reporting. Strategic reporting is anyway there inbuilt as well. So a lot of advantages in going with a one-stop, a single source of truth system for you. So that's one of the advantages of why you should move to S4HANA. So now, yes, the product is good. So how quickly can I get there, or what are the things that I should prepare when I embark on the journey? So if you're on the IT side, or if you're in the business side where you're facing a lot of challenges, there are a lot of tools available which even your internal IT can leverage and see what's the journey going to be like, how many hops, from my existing landscape, maybe your hardware, from your current hardware or your current OS parameters, your DB version, how many hops does it going to take me, to go to S4? Do I need an OS upgrade before I start the S4, or am I on Unicode, non-Unicode? All such things you can do assessment using your PAM and maintenance planner, or any add-ons that I have which are stopping me from going to S4, or is it something that I need to do before I go to S4? So maintenance planner and PAM are those tools that are available for you. And BSR, business scenario recommendation report, which is basically, yes, we have seen a lot of good things about S4, but what is it in for me, for my system? Because I've done some implementation. There is a way that my users use the system, what kind of data they punch and everything. So BSR is something which is generated out of your data. So it is very easy where you need to download a certain set of trace data from your system for the last 1 month and then go to a website and update it. Or right partner like YASH Technologies, if you reach out to us, we can help you get that BSR report done. We can guide you and help you in getting the BSR report done. So that essentially analyzes all your usage data and accordingly recommends the right kind of simplifications that are applicable for you. So if you're preparing a business case or a value case for your management, if you're in IT, so BSR would be one very good thing. Then a step below is readiness check, is basically something, again, yeah, it's slightly more work involved than a business scenario, but that's also something where we can help people to get the readiness check done and get an assessment done. Readiness check is far more beyond what is given in BSR. Of course, it does tell about your simplifications, what are applicable, what are the improvements applicable for you. But also it tells you what kind of sizing do you need, because you all know that when we embark on S4HANA, your platform also changes. The infrastructure should change. So especially when we're talking in the context of Azure, what should be the sizing that I should go on Azure? So those kind of calculations of size of your hardware. Then what is your custom code? You would have done a lot. You would have invested a lot on customizations, on your SAP, current SAP, and how protected are they, or what are the impact and all that. Or what are the Fiori apps? We have seen very beautiful apps that are there. So for your business, what are those apps that you can quickly leverage? I know you could eventually have a journey of Fiorizing your entire system, but before that, what are those key things which I should first target? Then there is a huge data that you would have done over a period. What are business process analytics are thrown, which actually give some recommendations suggesting that, why don't you archive these sets of data? Maybe there's a worth considering archiving. So that kind of analytics are given. So a whole lot of, it's like a diagnostic, complete diagnostic, like an MRI scan of your body. Readiness check does something like that to your system. And of course, there are a few more things like transformation navigator, which is even a further step beyond, where you can even analyze the dollar value that you're going to get savings. You can extrapolate your dollar savings based on some of the insights. Then, of course, a Fiori apps library. What are those apps applicable for you? Even if you're somebody shopping for your ERP, maybe maybe earlier ones may not be applicable if you're already not an SAP. But if you're looking to buy SAP, Fiori apps library is one place where you could go. It's publicly available. You could go and do a visit and see across various LOBs, across various SAP applications, not only S4, what are all the applications and what are the apps available. So you could see how the look and feel is going to be and what each app does. There is a very detailed descriptive thing. Yes, but yes, to make your life simple, for you to even prepare your road faster, very quicker, reach out to us. YASH Technologies is the right partner, and we'll definitely help you in preparing the road that much more faster. And then, yes, we are talking about, of course, we saw how good a system, we heard how good a system S4HANA is and all that, but it should also need a right platform. Like I mentioned, your hardware sizing, it should have a right sizing, right platform, systems, the right throughput, okay, and the right storage and right parameters to run HANA. So this is where I think YASH Technologies and Microsoft, Azure, and Ingram come together along with S4 as to give you the right platform experience and expertise, both. So we have helped a lot of customers. We're going to learn about that a lot more. And also Tim is going to further cover a lot more detail on about Azure, what are the various technical aspects of it, and also some of the benefits or some of the pricing or subscription models to Azure. So we at YASH, apart from, of course, we help you move your complete on-prem workload. So suppose if you're looking for a hardware refresh or you're looking towards a cloud journey, we can be your IMS partner, infrastructure partner, and also be an SAP partner. So whether you have SAP or non-SAP workloads, we can definitely help you get there. We can be one true SAP partner for you who can help you size your hardware and help you move your entire application set. And also, of course, while moving, we have I was going to talk about examples. Not only is just lifting and shifting your existing SAP applications, but along with that stuff, we can help you convert to either S4HANA, or even if you would like to just do a database shift, or if you're a non-Unicode, or you would like to achieve OS upgrade. So multiple things could be achieved with that step. You could speak to us and understand how such complex situations can be handled, but yet make it simple for you. So this is the message that I would like to give. Tim is going to talk more on Azure and what it brings and all that. What are the various things that you have that you could do? Then, yes, we spoke about it. Why now? Definitely, yes. Now COVID has actually put us all, and businesses are trying to resurrect themselves now. We are trying to reinvent new ways to do business. The opportunities are limited now, not too many opportunities, but how do we maximize our opportunities? The businesses who are able to make decisions quickly, who have more insights about the business, they understand about their own business fully. They are the ones who are able to quickly use that to their advantage and make those decisions and close those opportunities. So definitely now is the right time for you, and definitely you should start leveraging the value early. Yes, people think that I will wait until a certain time, I'm going to wait late, but there could be a lot of challenges also. Maybe when everyone is trying to do a rat race at that time, there could be death of partners. Maybe at that time you may not find the right partners or the right time window that you have. Before you realize, the time would have been over. Or you can even try some proof of concepts and everything. So these are definitely, now is the time for you to look at, because at least to start looking at preparing your journey, because it is not a very simple thing. It has a lot of planning required, and definitely if you start the steps early, you can get there and start getting the benefits very early. So now I would like to leave with you some messages around our packages that we have. Yes, we spoke about SAP S4HANA. So we spoke about how, if you are a customer trying to look for SAP for the first time, you're shopping for an ERP and looking at SAP, we have packages based on your industry. Or if you are an customer install base that you're already running SAP ECC, so what are the packages we have? We at a fixed cost, fixed scope, fixed time. So these are some of our industry solutions which we have qualified in certain regions. In most of the regions, certain products are qualified. So CAM1 for chemicals, CPG, pharma. So like that, and these are some of our customers where we have done implementations, greenfield implementations for some of our customers. Using these packages, they could quickly realize the value. So there's a stated scope, and then there is an objective to achieve, and there's a timeline and a cost to it. So then, of course, one of the most important features, device called YASH for HANA, especially targeted for customers looking at ECC to S4. And yes, the value prop is we'll deploy 60 apps, standard apps, which you can access. You have seen some of the apps, how they look. And of course, we have a baseline package. That's what we have. Plus add-on options. We're going to discuss what those add-on options could be. Could be an OS upgrade. If the OS is not compatible, like we discussed about multiple hops going there. If those are some hops involved, we can add some price onto it. Or if you're already having, along with ECC, you're having some systems like BW or a few of the other systems. So those could be your add-on options. Or if you're using certain products which are not compatible, which need to be, first there could be some prerequisite steps to implement So those are some of the add-on options. It's as said, it's a fixed price offering, of course, for a fixed cost. And there's a very minimal user training that would be required, but it'll be very effective, focusing more on a positive change management. Because yes, when we change applications or when you go to higher thing, always businesses focus on change management. But imagine somebody being able to, instead of learning a lot of transactions and GUIs, complex GUIs, imagine somebody going on a Facebook or a Google Mail, very intuitive to access around, see the information right there. So that's definitely a positive change management that way. And yeah, we have done a lot of engagements. We have done a lot of conversions, a lot of implementations in S4HANA. So then the package scope, very interesting is that, of course, we'll help you do the BSR and readiness check reports. Even these, if you approach us, we can work out and help you get there done. And it's for one ECC landscape. If you have multiple ECC landscapes, then again, for each one would be one package. So if you have one ECC landscape with a dev quality production, and of course, additionally sandbox, is what we would definitely anyway do. Or of course, CVA integration would be done for your business partner conversion. Even if you have any number of these modules, they're still covered. Okay, and if you're on classic GL, yes, new GL migration will happen, but without document split. So document split would be an add-on which you subsequently do after. Likewise, if you're on a deferred revenue, if somebody is using deferred revenue or revenue recognition, SD revenue recognition, so there is something which you have to first do an RAR migration only, after which you could do an S4. So those could be additional things that we could discuss. Up to 1,000 objects, custom code, or up to 10 company codes, database size 2 terabytes. So these are some of the package scope that we have, fixed scope, and that's where the pricing and the timelines come in. And yeah, some of the assumptions are, of course, we assume that you're on the right patch level so that it doesn't require any OS upgrade or a DB upgrade. But otherwise, it will go, you need to buy those, we need to discuss about those add-on price options. And we assume all your add-ons are compatible, and all your integrated systems, SAP integrated systems like BW, etc., if you already have, are compatible with S4HANA, and they do not need an upgrade. If they do need an upgrade, say from BW 7.3 to 7.5, for example, NetWeaver. So those things are not included, so we need to add those. So these are some of the assumptions that we have, and we also assume that you would be providing those system resources. Maybe something like on Azure, you can try actually investing into hardware for a limited amount of time and try out a proof of concept on Azure or something. So those kind of things you could work out before you really fully contemplate your move to a cloud. So these are the options. We have ECC to S4 for one ECC landscape, sandbox, dev, quality, and production. Solman, we will do a new implementation and do the EWS setup, not the full-blown Solman. And if your existing Solman is there, upgrade is not considered, that would be separate. Duration is anticipated to be 4 months, 3 months for conversion, and 1 month for post-go-live support or hypercare as it's called. Yes, there is a fixed price. Definitely reach out to us to understand what those prices would be. And of course, you should provision the required licenses and equivalent sandbox server for your production. So when you factor a conversion, not only you should not only budget your landscape, HANA landscape for your existing instances, but additionally, either on a temporary basis, you should provision a sandbox server both for your source system as well as for your target thing. So if you're, for example, on an Oracle Linux environment, you should have an Oracle Linux and a sandbox that is equivalent to your current system. So yes, we spoke about preparing the road. Definitely, I think if you're preparing a business case and everything, you need to see what budget heads, what would be my budget. So we're not talking about the actual cost, but what would be those cost line items. So one is definitely your software license costs, which would be your license fee, your licenses, existing SAP licenses to be converted to S4HANA. Or of course, if you're a NetNew, you need to purchase S4HANA licenses. And your hardware costs, typically, I think, of course, the OPEX would be the recommended one where you go with the infrastructure as a service model on Azure. And Tim is going to talk more about the options, what could be the implications of what could be a typical savings that you get from an existing on-prem and all that. Then, of course, the service cost to be paid to a services partner like YASH for your lift and shift, and also all the SAP migration services. Then, of course, there would be some budgets you need to factor for your network upgrade or connectivity aspects, your laptops and some of your desktops, or you might plan buying some gadgets like iPads, mobiles, etc. And your indirect cost, of course, your business and IT teams to be spared. And business partnership, if it's an S4 conversion, business partner, participation should be a bit more compared to your normal upgrade. Okay. So now some of the success stories. So these are all our clientele customers. In the region, Singapore, Dinata is a customer, and then of course we are working with few more customers. Pretty recently, we have closed some in the region in Brunei, where we are doing an S4HANA upgrade from an existing 1511 version. So we'll talk in detail about that. So these are all either conversions or implementations that we have done. So this is Donata is a ground handling and air catering services company based in, of course, in Emirates, but Singapore they have a regional center catering to the region. So we customer was an Oracle and Linux environment on the on-prem on a third-party data center, actually, in other words. So we had to simultaneously do lift and shift to Azure environment and achieve non-Unicode to Unicode conversion and the Oracle database to HANA, and of course ECC from a base ECC to EHP7. So move to SAP EHP7 on HANA. So this is something which we have done. So these are some of the. This is a very complex achievement that where YASH has really helped Dinata. There were a lot of challenges in terms of the data center had to be vacated, third-party data center in a limited time frame. So we achieved all of this in about 10 weeks time frame. And here there were not one ECC application, but there were two ECC applications. One was for the corporate and one was for the catering. So, and apart from that, they had an enterprise portal and all the entire SAP workloads that have been pushed. That part customer also had their entire non-SAP landscapes, also their applications that they had. Some are Oracle systems, some are Windows applications, etc. Altogether, there are about 60 plus virtual machines, and setting up the cloud landing zone on Azure, and then setting up the secure VPN connectivities. Everything YASH has done. So we played the true complete SI partner rollout here. So reach out to us to learn more about what exactly or what are the similar kind of things that we can do with you. Even if it is an S4 HANA from an on-prem ECC to an S4 HANA in Azure, we'll be able to definitely plan it out for you and execute it out for you. Then another S4 HANA conversion. This is in the Middle East region. So where we have done an S4, and here this is a case where customer was on a deferred revenue. So we had to do an RAR migration upfront, and then do the S4, and there were BW and few other systems along with it, which we had to do. This is also another cloud migration. So now, of course, Aarti talked about YASH a bit. I'm not going to go into detail. This is a snapshot. I'll leave it for a few seconds for you to understand. 25-year-old, 6,000 people, and a lot of maturity and alliances with SAP and all that. Our SAP practice, more than 2 decades of partnership with SAP. We align with SAP at every layer, not only just a license partner, but we are a co-innovation partner, we are their AMS partner, and we also collaborate with them, and we go to partner some of the niche areas like EHS, S4HANA, of course, and digital manufacturing. So several areas where we are co-innovating and being involved in the product development. So we not only help you in putting the first step to your digital in S4HANA, but we can help you walk the whole 9 yards of your digital journey, both from SAP and Azure, considering SAP and Azure digital products that they have. Then a strong center of excellence to help you, to give you that confidence to say, yes, we have been there and we have the expertise. We are helping our customers, doing proof of concepts, educating them. So lastly, thank you. So if you have anything, any doubts, you could reach out to us, yash4hana@yash.com, very easy to remember. So if it is S4HANA, it has to be YASH4HANA. So thank you, everyone. Now I'll stop here and hand it over to Tim. Tim, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Nagesh. Just an audio check here. Am I audible?
Yes, Tim, you can go on. Yes, Tim, you're audible.
Awesome. Awesome. So hopefully my slide is showing up right now. Thanks, YASH Technologies for having me on this webinar. Happy to be here. I think what I'll do is just to share more about SAP on Azure. and focus really on the the innovation possibilities that are available to you as a customer if you go onto Azure, and focus more on the cost saving mechanisms that are available in Azure. So it's really in 4 parts: general introduction, followed by what's the offering that we have for SAP on Azure, and the innovations possible, and the key benefits of running your critical business workloads on Azure. Without further ado, from a Microsoft perspective, the key drivers that we have seen so far, we could put it into 4 buckets. So just quickly going through it, maybe you're looking at operational enhancements, whether you're trying to look at better security and compliance, whether that's meeting them or being able to understand where do you stand today in terms of meeting regulations and all that. There may be a S4HANA upgrade roadmap. So whether you're looking at upgrading the DB or actually moving on from an ECC system to S4HANA. There are also usually these are coupled into a digital transformation initiatives, whether that's about improving your end customers' experience depending on the nature of business that you're in, or you're really further along the curve and you're looking at IoT and maybe taking advantage of the AI and ML trend and key advantages of advanced analytics in this space. Or it could really be driven by infrastructure events. So if you're looking at a hardware refresh or your data center lease is expiring, these are key triggers that we have seen from Microsoft that sort of kickstarts the whole conversation of a cloud migration. So the typical journey from wherever you are to cloud is you could take it in four steps, and Azure supports every one of these scenarios. So from scenario A, we're looking at a lift and shift to cloud, where you're really just looking at a rehost. So whatever you have on premises goes up to Azure. For some customers, they may choose to go for a lift and migrate. That means you are lifting the VMs of servers from on-prem, but you're looking at an upgrade of your DB, whether it's from Oracle and Linux to SQL, for example, or to HANA, right? Eventually moving to HANA. There may be situations where it's a combination of both, and you're really looking at moving off to HANA first just before coming to Azure, and that's also a fully supported scenario. On the last case where it's really a transformational project that you're embarking on, and it's a greenfield brownfield sort of implementation for on S4HANA on Azure. So just to introduce the footprint that Microsoft has built over these years, I think we've come a long way. There are 58 regions as of till date, and we are one of the top 3 network fiber providers, but we do not expose that to the general public. It's entirely meant for our enterprise and commercial customers, and this is what we offer for Xbox Live or Office 365 in terms of the connectivity and the Azure backbone. Microsoft runs on trust. So that's something you may have heard very often. We pride ourselves in terms of offering the most number of compliance certifications and standards on Azure. So a lot of these audit reports are actually available on the Azure public website. So if your auditors are asking for standards on how Azure has been checked for 2701, for example, these reports are actually available to you to pass it back to your auditing team. If you are being asked like what is the compliance standards of the data center you're running your workloads in. Sorry, seems to be a slight lag in the slides there. So this is just a very high level snapshot of all the customers who trust Microsoft and have their workloads, their SAP workloads running on Azure. You can see SAP themselves do run their own systems on Azure, and that's related to the SAP Cloud Platform, which I can touch on later. Microsoft ourselves, we're also a big user of SAP, and that really drives the partnership, the long-standing partnership that we have had with SAP himself. And of course, you can see Dinata here as a local reference that we have worked together with YASH Technologies. So back in late last year, if I'm not wrong, we announced, as a result of the strong partnership that we have with SAP, the Embrace initiative. So what this really signifies is just SAP has selected Microsoft Azure as the preferred cloud vendor of choice. So for any sort of customers who are looking at a migration of their SAP systems or moving on to SAP S4 HANA, SAP would position Azure as the cloud of choice. Part of this whole Embrace initiative is also the inclusion of best practices across the industry, reference architectures, and the expert technical support that the customers would get through the Embrace initiative that we have signed. So just to level set everyone on what we mean by SAP on Azure. So this conversation is really one of an infrastructure as a service. So traditionally, if this was on the total left-hand side here, you can take that as on-premises. So you would be managing every layer that you can see here on the slide. When you transition to a cloud model, what happens is, at least in the beginning, the key benefits is how some of these layers are actually outsourced to the cloud provider. So Microsoft takes care of the underlying networking connectivity all the way up to the virtualization layer. From customer's perspective, you would have to manage the OS up to the applications, which in this case would be SAP. In some situations, customers can choose to outsource the management of this portion here to a partner such as YASH Technologies. And Microsoft enables that through our CSP provider, cloud solution provider program, which YASH is a part of today. So just to cover in terms of infrastructure, what's available to you, Microsoft offers SAP Certified VMs to run the workloads on Azure, and we have one of the widest number of certified offerings in terms of VM capability. So you're pretty much covered in terms of whether it's a development server that you're putting on, or a really high capacity requirement sort of business critical system that you're looking to host on Azure. Similarly, in terms of storage options, we do have a multiple availability of choice in terms of the disk type. So typically this would range in terms of the IOPS capabilities and expected performance. You can go all the way up to Ultra Disk and even leverage on Azure NetApp files with such an enterprise file sharing sort of solution for those who are familiar. In terms of the availability of the cloud, we are one of the only cloud providers to offer a SLA on a single VM. The only condition here is to ensure that the VM is paired with premium SSD disk storage for 99.9 uptime SLA. This is really ideal for cost-conscious customers and not that critical, business systems as of today. It's extremely useful for any sort of dev test or sandbox environments that you may need to host on Azure. As you go along, if your requirements are much, of a higher requirement, you can move along the line here, and you can see in terms of availability sets, we do offer a 99.95 SLA. We have the concept of availability zones as well in Azure. In Singapore, we have 3 data centers, and of course, it differs across the region in terms of what's available. And we do have a unique offering, which is a regional pairs. So this is like a failover capability if an entire region goes down. For Singapore, the paired region would be Hong Kong. Just to give you an example of what a reference architecture looks like. So we have all these availability set and zones defined for the SAP servers and workloads themselves, the apps and DB. What to call out here is we do have native capabilities built into Azure specifically for disaster recovery. So Azure Site Recovery is a DR as a service solution, you don't really have to set up any underlying infrastructure. It's more of a point and click, almost like a SaaS solution service that you can sort of define, in an event of a DR or even for a test DR, where do you want to fail over and which of the workloads do you want to fail over. Azure handles all of the underlying replication for you automatically. And we also have connectivity options to link back to some of your sensitive workloads, for example, or for any key reasons that you have to have on-prem resources. It's still possible to link back through express route, which is nothing but a dedicated line back to your on-prem environment. So going on to Azure is not just about infrastructure, right? It's not just about that compute resource. A key requirement to consider is how would you govern and operationalize all of your whole environment. So I won't touch everything here, but in terms of governance, we do have native capabilities to handle cost management, to keep costs down, to keep them optimized. We do have control for identity and access management through RBAC. There are monitoring solutions, and right now there's an Azure Monitor solution specifically for SAP HANA, which is still in public preview. And this is so that you can have full observability into your infrastructure environment. There are automation capabilities available if you so need them, and we do have a native backup solution specific for SAP HANA, which is very similar to the Azure Site Recovery in that you don't have to set up any underlying infrastructure to have such a service. So it really simplifies the overall solution that you are having when you consider a cloud migration, right? So in part, that is also some level of innovation that Microsoft is bringing to the table. And together with YASH, we can identify the right solutioning that makes sense given your business requirements. Of course, you can also leverage on available partner solutions out there in the market today, for example, Commvault or Veeam. So part of the journey to the cloud is the first step would be that initial lift and shift migration. Along the way, what you really want to aim for is to leverage on the other capabilities that are available on the cloud in general, right? So IaaS would be the first step to improve the efficiency of your overall IT, whether it's from an operations standpoint or whether it's from economics and costs. What you want to move further down the curve would be to leverage on innovation possibilities, so platform as a service. So there's a host of services that Azure offers today, and I can't possibly cover every one of them, but I do encourage you to check out azurecharts.com. This is a community tool that's available freely, built internally by one of our cloud solution architects over in Russia. And I strongly encourage you to explore this tool because it's really handy to understand at breadth what are the sort of services that Azure offers. You even do have a capability to filter them based on a solution reference architecture that you might be interested in looking at, whether that is IoT stream analytics or big data warehousing on Azure. So all of this would be filtered automatically to show you what are the relevant services that you might need. Specifically to SAP, in terms of what is possible to integrate on Azure, there are multiple number of options. To call out, I think from Microsoft, we've seen a strong interest in terms of advancing, the analytics capabilities of an organization. So it's no secret that big data is a big thing, and a lot of us may not be fully leveraging the data that we have on hand right now. In fact, deriving the full value of that is the whole point of analytics, right? And with Azure, it fully integrates with SAP in the sense that we do have, for example, AI and ML services that you can leverage on, or Databricks to handle the ingestion of data really easily from a fully managed service point of view, right? So you minimize the use of complex scenarios which involves multiple VMs that requires to be set up. There is a good integration with our Office suite. So if you're an Office 365 user today, we do have a very nice and handy application on the Power Platform that I can cover on just slightly later after this. So Azure is an open cloud, just to call it out. So Satya said Microsoft loves Linux way back in 2014, and we've definitely stood by that statement. So if you're wondering, what else can run on Azure, this is just a a very small snapshot of what is currently available and supported on Azure today. So don't worry or don't misunderstand that Azure is only a Windows only environment, right? So the most important part starts now. So the key benefits of running SAP on Azure is really about, we can consolidate it into 5 buckets. So about lowering your total cost of ownership on your IT solutions, achieving a greater agility in terms of provisioning new compute resources as required, resulting in faster project delivery. You can leverage on this ultimate scalability and flexibility by taking on a cloud provider such as Microsoft, which is a hyperscaler, and because Microsoft has that scale, we are able to better offer higher availability and disaster recovery capabilities as a cloud provider of our size. And of course, I've touched on the innovation possibilities in terms of leveraging SAP as your core data source, and really incorporating that with a host of other data sources that you might have, and really just taking a full advantage of what Azure has to offer. In terms of cost reduction mechanisms, we have what we call the reserve instance model. So reserve instance is nothing but the concept of paying on a committed basis, whether 1 year or up to 3 years. You're actually reserving the compute capacity that you might be using for a core system such as SAP. That significantly reduces the cost depending on the VM sizes, as you can see in terms of the percentage savings here. And we do offer instance size flexibility, which is the concept of from if you are changing or moving a VM size from a DV3 family to the next tier, you can automatically do so without having to change the reserve instance model that you have purchased for. For more information, you can take a look at the link that's available on the slide right here. Another key one to understand is the Azure Hybrid benefit. So together with reserve instance, it can reduce up to 80% of your running costs on Azure. So if reserve instance covers the compute cost, hybrid benefit covers the licensing cost of your Windows Server and SQL Server licenses if you do have an active software assurance. So this is unique to Azure in terms of the license mobility, and none of the other competitors are able to offer such a program as a hub or hybrid benefit in Azure. To further optimize the cost, there are 3 concepts here. So right sizing would be the concept of sizing your SAP system exactly to how you are going to use it on the cloud. This is opposed to an on-prem approach where you would need to oversize a server due to the upfront investment to last for at least 3 or 5 years. But in the cloud, it's a totally different model. Tight sizing is the idea of being able to scale up and down depending on processing demands. So usually, quarter end or year end are when spikes happen in terms of the compute resources. But when it's not required, you can actually scale down the VM so that you can save costs in ongoing motion. Snoozing is a really cool one. So this was the Power App integration that I was talking about. This is basically an integration to the Azure portal, where you can have this Power App mobile application sitting on a developer's app phone, where they can spin up and down or turn on and off a development server without having to rely on IT. So this is extremely useful if you want to really optimize in terms of your Azure spend, because when you're not using the servers, turn it off. A recent innovation, just to share with everyone, is Windows Virtual Desktop. So this service went G8 last year, November, and it's a key key service to look at, especially if you're looking to manage, better manage and simplify the deployment of your SAP GUI, among other things. Do check out a white paper published by Forrester in terms of how customers are realizing, cost savings when moving to Azure. Won't really cover much of this, but Microsoft is fully supporting any of your cloud journeys. So, take the first step to reach out to YASH or to us, and then we can take a look at, how we can best support you. So these are the available programs or key offerings in terms of resources that Microsoft can bring to bear. And just to summarize, in terms of the benefits of running SAP on Azure, is really about taking advantage of that long-standing partnership that Microsoft has with SAP as the best cloud to host or run SAP systems. We do offer a wide variety, an increasing range of infrastructure certified by SAP to run your systems on. And we are really a trusted cloud in terms of having the largest compliance portfolio and the best-in-class security for all of our customers. And thank you very much. So I think I've come to the end of my segment. I'll be handing the time over to Aarti, who has a series of poll questions for the attendees. Over to you, Aarti.
Thank you so much, Timothy. Now we will run 3 poll questions. I request all the attendees to kindly participate into each of the questions that you would be shortly seeing on your screen. Thank you so much, attendees, for participating in the Q&A, the poll questions. In the interest of time, speakers, I will just pick up 2 questions. So here is the first question. Is there any assessment tool available to find out the TCOs running on the SAP workloads on Azure?
So I can take that one. Yes, there are solution assessments that are available today that can be funded through Microsoft assessment team. But of course, that will be subject to final approvals. What you get is really a report at the end of the day that gives you a full view of what your infrastructure cost might look like when you go to Azure. And with additional inputs, you can have a TCO analysis in terms of maybe a 3-year or 5-year view of the runs as opposed to running on-prem environment. Hope that answers your question.
Yes. So the next question is, what kind of tools do you have to migrate from ECC on-prem to SAP S4 HANA on cloud for the data conversion?
See, when we do the conversion, even whether from an on-prem to cloud or from on-prem to on-prem, from an ECC to S4, the data is protected because we do it through the SAP's tools, the SUM and the data migration DMO tools. So effectively, there is you're definitely your data is secure enough, and there are validations available for you to actually do. There are a pre-migration steps and a post-migration steps available to ensure that you compare your data, and ensure that the data is not lost. So the reports will have to tally. That's the way that you have, because that is your data migration is automatically taken care of as part of your conversion. There is a sum. So suppose you're doing an on-prem workload, you run all your sum tool and the DMO tool. At a certain stage, you can take a sum backup. Once all the on-prem activities or the source system activities are completed, you take a backup. Then the backup can be moved to cloud, where you have your target system, and then you can import the sum and continue with your conversion activities. Or it can also be there, your source is on-prem, your target is on Azure cloud. You could still connect with the WAN, very big pipe, if you have a good connectivity. So it without the activity can happen simultaneously. The source is here, and across the pipe the data is written. So these are the two methods available, and ensure that your data is secure and also converted successfully. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, Nagesh. So we have a couple of more questions, but I think we can take that offline in the interest of time, because we have already on the verge of closure. So thank you, speakers, for providing such an in-depth insight on this topic today. I would like to thank all our attendees for taking out time and participating in today's webinar. Speakers, with your permission, I would like to close the session.
Sure. Thank you, Aarti, and thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Tim.
Likewise. Thank you, Aarti.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.